And hello, fabulous AP students. This is your favorite teacher, Mr. Jacobson. I am excited to be with you today. Today we're going to talk about shifting powers starting from 1900 to the present. So we're going to look a lot about revolutions that occur, especially in the early 1900s, that's going to help us set the stage for World War I and going forward. So let us begin. So first thing we need to understand is Russia's situation here. So Russia's got a few problems going on here. Russia is ruled by a monarchy, and so there's a lot of resistance to political reforms because the political reforms would require that government to give up power, and they didn't want to do that. And all these Enlightenment ideas are swimming around the world, and the people in Russia are like, hey, we want to have more say in the government. And again, we have a czarist regime that doesn't want to give that kind of power to the people. Also, we we have an industrialized country, which Russia is known for its industrialization. However, it doesn't have a lot of economic growth. There's not a lot of private businesses who are investing in Russia. Once again, you have a government that's trying to control everything. And so that's hurting. Although they're industrialized, it's mainly done through government means, not through private industry. So they're really slow to build public education for peasants. Roads and transportation systems are all failing and faltering. These are just a few of the internal problems that are going on. Czars are reluctant to recognize civil liberties and allow citizens to participate in government. And people feel oppressed by the government and they want change. And when people are desperate, they do some pretty desperate things. So that's the internal situation of Russia emerging into the early 1900s. Some external problems that occurred is, so we're going to contextualize a little bit here. So Russia lost the Crimean War to the Ottoman Empire, so they lost land to the Ottoman Empire. Of course, the Ottoman Empire was backed by Britain and France because they felt like they gained something from that as well. They lost the Russo-Japanese War, so Manchuria went to Japan, and Russia again is not looking great on the world stage. And then a lot of pressure against the government mounted within when World War I hit. A lot of people in Russia are like, why are we fighting this war? Like, what does this really have to do with us? And they felt like it was an unjust war, which put more pressure on the government to get out. So what happens? Well, there's a group of people led by a leader. His name is Vladimir Lenin. And Vladimir, he is a Marxist through and through. He studied the philosophies of Karl Marx in Germany at one point, and then he moved back to Russia. He began this movement, or became a leader of this movement known as the Bolsheviks, which is a communist party in Russia. And it opposed the Tsarist government in support of the working class people. So communists in Russia and just the theory, the idea, the basic tenets of communism believe that the workers should own the means of production and that collective ownership would lead to prosperity and a just society. So Soviet government abolished all private trade, private land, took over ownership of factories and heavy industries. So Vladimir Lenin is going to emerge as the new leader. Tsar Nicholas II, he is going to get overthrown and the whole czarist monarchy regime is going to go by the wayside in Russia. Vladimir Lenin will emerge as that leader. The government will confiscate all private property pretty much, and they will control all things. They will start collectivizing, and redistributing wealth and food. For example, food that the farmers grew in their on their farms in the back areas of Russia. That food's going to get redistributed over to the people that are working in cities and factories. The success of the Bolsheviks in taking power in a large country like Russia is really going to threaten the capitalist countries of US and Great Britain. And if you look over here to the right, here are some more internal and external factors that kind of lead to the Russian Revolution. You got Bloody Sunday, and you should read about that. You got the Revolution of 1905. You got the Russo-Japanese Wars we talked about in World War I. Okay, so we're going to jump over to China now. So China's got some things going on. We see the Qing dynasty getting weaker and weaker and weaker. Some internal challenges to this are the Qing dynasty was never really accepted as Chinese. They were the Manchus in Manchuria, and they always were looked at as foreigners, but at a time when they made China look strong, they tolerated them. But now China's not looking so strong, and especially the Han clan is really putting pressure on the Qing. The Han are considered like true Chinese people, right? And the Qing are not. They're the foreigners. So due to a robust population in China, any natural disaster could result in early deaths of thousands of Chinese. And so with natural disasters happening, the Qing dynasty is getting pounded because, again, if you have the mandate of heaven, then China should run smoothly. So the third thing is the Qing could not collect enough taxes. They were getting too weak. A weak government can't strong arm rich, wealthy people to give up their money in form of taxes. People are going to evade the government, and the more they evade, the less money they have to put towards infrastructure and roads and bridges and all those other things necessary to make a government run. And so the Qing dynasty is just becoming more ineffective and less relevant. So some external challenges are happening. The Qing, obviously, you have this growing dominance of European influence known as spheres of influence, which means Europeans had exclusive trading rights in designated areas of China. The Qing, they're going to start this Boxer Rebellion, or the Harmonious Way of the Fist, and they're going to lose. They're going to lose to the Western European powers, and as a result, their popular support for ruling China is going to just go to nearly zero. And that Boxer Rebellion will happen around 1899, somewhere around there, right at the turn of the century. So we're going to see upheaval in China at the turn of the century, especially after the Boxer Rebellion. So in 1911, you're going to see the Qing dynasty will finally be overthrown. So 1911, it's done. It gets overthrown by a revolutionary movement led by a man named Sun Yat-sen. So this man is a Christian. However, he's also a firm believer in traditional Chinese beliefs like Confucian ideals of loyalty, respect of ancestors, and efforts to promote social harmony. He even wrote a book called The Three People's Principles. He heavily praised democracy, nationalism, and livelihood. So he believed that, one, we got to have China as a democracy where people get to have more say. Two, we have to build a national pride in China so people are proud to be Chinese, and we can move forward with that kind of identity. And then three, he wanted to change things. See, the warlords and the wealthy had kind of gobbled up most of the land in China, where no one really got to own their own land. So he wanted to end the extreme unequal distribution of wealth. He wasn't necessarily against wealth like a communist was, but in extreme cases where, you got one person who's gobbled up most of the land, obviously that needs to be broken up. Sun Yat-sen never controlled all of China and was opposed by local warlords. However, he will start the Chinese National Party. So the Chinese National Party, or the Kuomintang, okay, in Chinese it's pronounced the Kuomintang, the Kuomintang. I don't really care how you pronounce it. The Chinese National Party is fine. Okay, just be very aware of what this party is, because this party is important going forward in the future when the communists come on the scene. So they're going to control China for about 2 decades, and then they'll lose to the communist Chinese with Mao Zedong as their leader. Now, both Chinese communists and Chinese nationalists, they honor this man right here, Sun Yat-sen. He is considered the founder of the Chinese Republic, kind of like a father, if you will. So we're going to see weakening going on in the Ottoman Empire as well. So now we're going to jump over to the Ottoman Empire and see what's going on there. So as you know, towards the end of the 1800s, the Ottoman Empire kind of gets this known as the sick man of Europe, right? Pretty ineffectual. They're losing to they're losing countries like in the Balkan Wars, and people are looking for self-determination and looking for a pride of nationalism, breaking away from the old Ottoman ideas. So a group of reformers known as the Young Turks will start arising. Okay, they'll be in opposition to the Sultan. They're going to be a pro-constitution group. However, they're going to advocate for something called Turkification. And Turkification is kind of this idea of, we're going to make all the citizens of the Ottoman Empire, and the Ottoman Empire is a very multi-ethnic empire, by the way. We're going to make all the citizens of the Ottoman Empire identify with Turkish culture. And part of that Turkish culture is Islam. So this is going to pose a major problem for people in the empire, especially the Armenians who are a part of this empire, because they are Christians and they are devoutly Christian and they don't want to be Muslim. They only want to be a part of the Ottoman Empire, but they have to be. So the Ottoman Empire and the Armenians are at odds with each other, and they're going to be, meaning the Armenians, they're going to be unfairly blamed for economic problems, social issues that are going the wrong way. There will be a hostility towards the Armenians that will lead to what we know now as the Armenian Genocide of the 20th century, with about 1.5 million killed between 1914 and 1923 by the Ottoman Empire government. So I want you to understand that this Turkification and it wasn't a popular thing because of the multi-ethnic backgrounds of many people in the Ottoman Empire. And the Armenians will be blamed for many things, kind of like the Jews in Germany for their loss of World War I and going into the problems of going into post World War I and into World War II. The Armenians will be looked at as the scapegoats, and they're going to be slaughtered, and there will be genocide on them, and it will be a very serious thing. Even today, the Turkey, the official government of Turkey does not recognize that this happened, but there's just too much evidence to support that it did. So let's go on to understanding further the Ottoman collapse here. So Turks represent the Europeans for their unequal trade practices with them. So many of the people in the Ottoman Empire, they didn't like the West, they don't like Britain, they don't like France, They felt like some trade deals that they made just benefited them. And so they're going to secretly ally with Germany in World War I, hoping that Germany wins, because if Germany wins, then they're going to get land and they're going to get favors, and hopefully that could be a nice, jump back to their economy and to their prestige as an empire in that region. However, Germany did not win. And after their defeat in World War I, the Ottoman Empire got broken up by the victors, meaning the Entente, and they made smaller nation states. They also made the nation state of the Republic of Turkey. And so if you look here, you could see here's the Ottoman Empire. A lot of this land was here. Egypt was kind of doing its own thing, but kind of still officially part of it. But as you can see, so it broke up to the Republic of Turkey. Now we have Syria and we have Iraq. We have Palestine over here. And so the Sultan of the Ottoman Empire still ruled on his throne, but it was more like a puppet for Britain at that point. So there's a man by the name of Ataturk. And he's pretty important because he's going to start the Turkish national movement, and his name originally is called Mustafa Kemal. And he's going to lead this army against Britain because, again, they want self-determination. Self-determination is the ideal that they want to be able to control their own country. They want to have their own free government, to make their own laws representative of their people. So self-determination is not just a Turkish thing. A lot of countries at this point want to have self-determination. A lot of the colonies that will break away after World War II will want self-determination. They defeated the British and other forces in 1923, and Kemal became the first president. Now, Kemal changed his name to Ataturk because it means father of the Turks. So Ataturk made reforms to westernize Turkey into a democracy. He created a secular nation, not one with a strong... so he created a secular nation, meaning he focused less on religion to sort of shape it, and more on Western ideas. He created a public education for boys and girls. He abolished polygamy. He has expanded suffrage for women. Ataturk, he started wearing like Western clothes, told other people to wear Western clothes. I mean, look at this guy here. I mean, he looks like he could be from the West, France or Britain or something like that. Despite all the reforms, he still ruled as a dictator for 15 years up until his death. So even though he made these reforms that made it better for the people, this isn't a guy who wanted to give up his power. He ruled until he died. So he is technically like a dictator. So another revolution I want to talk to you about is the Mexican Revolution. So we have Porfirio Diaz, okay? He was a dictator in Mexico. The government controlled about 97% of the land in Mexico, which most Mexican peasants made them just landless. And so Diaz became like a dictator himself. However, he was supported by a lot of the wealthy businesses in America. So that was where he kind of got his backing from. So Diaz, he jailed a man by the name of Francisco Madero because he ran against him for president of Mexico. So you have this man who's challenging the existing power. He's consolidated a lot of power. He throws him in prison, and that starts a revolution. So Diaz's strong armed tactics, accommodation to foreign powers, and opposition to land reform ignited this Mexican Revolution. So Maduro's going to escape. Eventually, he's going to raise an army and challenge Diaz. The army was led by Francisco Pancho Villa, which you probably heard of him before. And Francisco Pancho Diaz is going to defeat the Mexican troops. And that's going to send Diaz into exile. And so we have a shift of power from Diaz is kicked out, right? So one revolutionary leader, Emiliano Zapata, he's going to begin this redistribution of land to the impoverished peasants, like he promised. Between 1910 and 1920, 2 million Mexicans are going to die in this revolution. It wasn't a pretty revolution. Politically, there was a lot of violence based on people who believed in the old ways or the new ways, etc. The Institutional Revolutionary Party, the PRI, was formed in 1929. Though widely criticized as corrupt, the PRI dominated Mexican politics up until, say, 2000. So it is up until 2000 that all the presidents in the PRI were from that party. So all the presidents of Mexico were from the PRI party. So anyway, that's that. I want to just sum up a few things here. So shifting powers after 1900 summary. The West dominated the global political order at the beginning of the 20th century, but both land-based and maritime empires gave way to new states by the century's end. The older land-based Ottoman, Russian, and Qing empires collapsed due to a combination of internal and external factors. These changes in Russia eventually led to communist revolution. States around the world challenged the existing political and social order, including the Mexican Revolution, that arose as a result of political crisis. And that's it. So go ahead and write your one-page summary, and we'll see you when you come back. Thanks. Bye.